welcome to another episode of the Ali Show, and today we have another special guest, Mr. Dave Wood from Woody's Movement Workshop, a fellow surfer, lifeguard, paramedic, and breathing guru.
Oh, you've done your research, man. I got to say, I haven't been a lifeguard in about 15 years, but I'll take that.
Yeah, because I heard it from a podcast you did with Youre from the Fight Dietitians. I listened to that one, and just talking to a lot of the boys that we know, we both like you work with, and I train with the boys from City Kickboxing and all that. So yeah, you get to learn about all this information. Anyway, Dave, how's your day been, brother?
Day's been good. I've woken up and in the weekend normally get up, have a coffee. First thing I always do in the morning is have a coffee. Can't function without a coffee.
And that's a pretty good coffee. I don't really drink like strong coffee, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, you're the first person that's asked for a cappuccino.
So, bro, I only drink the the fancy coffees. Because I tried, bro. Like, I think maybe what happened was because when I was younger, my dad drinks like black coffee, bro. He's like a big coffee guy. He's strong, real strong black coffee kind of thing. And I think when I was younger, I tasted it and it wasn't really for me. And ever since then, I've never really had. So I started on like the cappuccinos and the mochachinos and all that.
Man, starting drinking coffee is an expensive. It's an expensive thing, eh? Like, I mean, I can easily spend like $70 on coffee a week.
It is, but what is like the beans? Is it like from where it comes from, or how do you?
Yeah, well, we bought our own coffee machine because I was spending so much money on coffee. But the interesting thing is the best coffee beans in the world come from Colombia, right? Well, they're touted as, the country that makes the best coffee. Well, I was in Colombia and we went to a coffee plantation. We couldn't even get a coffee there. So they're not big on coffee at all. When we were in Colombia, it was very difficult.
They're big on something else.
Yeah, I could tell you a story about that.
Tell us, what is the story, man?
No,
we're all about the stories.
When I was there, I had a lot of fun, put it that way.
When were you there?
This is going back, man, probably like the first time I was in South America was like 15 years ago. I flew from England into Venezuela, into Caracas.
Yeah.
Which is sort of touted as one of the most dangerous cities in the world. And man, it was an eye-opener because I went there not being able to speak even a word of Spanish. And when I turned up, none of my luggage turned up, my surfboards and all the gear that I had for this sort of 4-month trip through South America. And when you're overseas like that and you're by yourself, like the things that you own are everything, right? Like that's your comfort, And so I felt very isolated when I got there without my gear, and that luggage never turned up. So that was lost in transit somewhere.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and that really threw me off, being in a country that was so unfamiliar and not being able to talk Spanish. And I remember on the first night, they put me up in this little village near the Caracas airport, which was dodgy as all hell. Like there's no tourists at this place. Oh. And
it's like one of the local.
Yeah, it's just this. Yeah, little right on the coastline, and just a little fishing village. But it had that air of like, everything felt uncomfortable and a bit dodgy, and but yeah, the first night I went out and I went to this restaurant, and I didn't know how to read from the menu, and I was just the waiter come over and I was just pointing at this, just pointing at the menu. This is what I'll have, sort of thing. And he was getting really angry, and he kept repeating himself. And I was like, "No hablo español," and just kept pointing. And anyway, I waited like 20 minutes, and enough bread for a whole family came out. So I'd ordered like bread for a family.
Wow.
So I just had bread for dinner. I was like, man, I need to learn Spanish quickly.
Fast, especially with nothing on you, and is. And when was this? What year was this?
Oh man, this was like 15 years ago. I don't know.
Oh, so
was
Pablo Escobar still alive then?
I think so.
Oh damn, that would have been
I knew
so
nothing,
cool.
man. When I rocked up there, I knew nothing. I was just like, man, I'm going to Venezuela, and then I'll make my way down through Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and get to the coast and just surf all the way down the coast. And I was by myself, and very naive, But I loved that about traveling, about getting out of your comfort zone.
You
It was
learn.
it was a time in my life where I really wanted to challenge myself. I was going through a few things, and I really wanted to push myself and challenge myself and be uncomfortable.
Hey, you! Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video.
And back then, this was maybe a little bit longer than 15 years ago, but there was no Instagram, right? There was like, if I wanted to send, communicate, I would go to the internet cafe and send an email.
Yeah,
that was it.
I think they might have been emails. Might have been what was the first? Was it MySpace? No, even before that, Friendster. No,
Yeah,
that was like 10, 12. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe those days there still were, but it was still like a premium thing, maybe. So emails were the best way.
Yeah, and man, it was like, after 4 days of going back to the airport every day, trying to sort out where my luggage was, the guys were like, look, it's, I came to the conclusion that my luggage was gone.
It's
and
gone. Wow, what airlines were that? Man?
That was Lufthansa.
Okay.
Yeah, they sucked. They really sucked.
Pretty good airline. Oh my gosh. You know what's funny is, like, I myself have done like a lot of traveling, and I assume you have as well. I have been very fortunate to have never, I don't want to jinx it, touch wood anyway, yeah. But experience, losing your luggage, man. I just don't know. Like,
it really pisses you off.
Bro, I know. And I think that maybe when I hear all these stories of people getting it was very early on when I started traveling. I always made sure that I had essentials in my carry-on. It's a pain in the ass, I know, to drag your bag around the airport, and you just want to chuck it in the check-in.
Yeah, you see, I never put that much thought into it. I would have so I just had what I had on. I had my backpack and my shorts and my shoes and my t-shirt.
This is a surfer lifestyle.
And
that's just all you need.
With yeah, man, and it was a real trip, but it forced me to to learn Spanish and to be really forced me to take that on, and because over there, like, it's not like everyone speaks English.
I know what you mean.
And especially where I was in Venezuela. But I ended up going to this place, an eco lodge on the edge of the Henry Pater National Park, which is on the Caribbean coast of Venezuela, the most beautiful place I've ever been.
Wow.
And I rocked up at this eco lodge that was owned by a German guy, and I sort of explained my circumstance, and I said to him, is there any work? Do you have any work? I'll do anything, And he was like, well, we're painting the eco lodge. So I spent a month there painting the eco lodge.
Wow.
That's the receptionist. A long time painting. Yeah, man, it's a big lodge, and it was right on the border of this national park, and I could go catch a bus from the eco lodge out to the coast and go surfing. And the receptionist there, a girl called Cynthia, was like beautiful.
Okay.
And so I was like, man, I'm gonna try and tune this chick, and but my Spanish was so crap, and but anyway, I ended up staying with her, and she worked at the university there, and I ended up not wanting to leave, and so all these challenges, if you just, the whole thing is like, I could have easily been like, my luggage isn't here, and I wanted to go back to England, I felt that uncomfortable, but you forge on, and great things, if you put yourself out there, then good shit happens.
Yeah, definitely. And so you're like, your time in Colombia, since we're at Edinburgh, man, I just want to ask, like, did you encounter, like the, obviously Colombia is known for like the drug cartels and all that. Did you encounter any of that while you're there, like the, down to like the plantations or?
Yeah, I got to show you some photos, man. Oh. So we were down on the border, a place called San Agustin.
Yeah.
And by this stage, my mate who was living in England came over and met up with me, and he travelled with me for a month. Dan Cayley, a good mate from out here.
Shout out, Dan.
Yeah, good man. And we met this guy in this place, San Agustin. He said, my family owned a coca plantation, and I can take you there, for a couple of $100 US. And this was the craziest trip. So it was like, we ended up at this coca plantation, and we would go out with the kid, this family that we stayed with, and the kid would take us out every day, and we would watch how they make the coca and how they extract the coca from the leaves. And it was just such an interesting experience. Yeah.
I'd imagine.
And, like when we told them how much cocaine costs here in New Zealand or, in England, this kid was just blown away. It all sort of like, he didn't realize, he was just making this stuff. Like he didn't realize how much we were paying for it, and it just blew his mind.
Yeah, they're very isolated in that, in
oh
that
man,
space.
This is a village in the middle of nowhere, and they're just in the bush, but they're making this stuff, and the fumes and stuff that come off the production of making cocaine is like gnarly. And this kid had no face mask on or nothing like that,
No
just
proper
breathing
protection.
these fumes, and we're like just standing back about 10 feet away with our t-shirts wrapped around it because it's so potent, But yeah, a really interesting experience, and yeah.
Man, like it's you watch some, like a lot of documentaries and series and all the stuff, and you see, there's people getting exploited, man. Like, they're getting paid close to nothing, and you talk about the value of those drugs when it crosses borders, like goes into the US and all that shit. And man, it's sad, they, and one of the things was, I listened to this lady who was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and she actually went into these places, interviewed these people, talked to these people, and like, the world thinks that, they are bad people and this and that, whatnot, but
they're just surviving, man.
exactly,
it's just survival, yeah.
if you were put in that position, you'd probably be doing the same, and they're just trying to feed their families.
Yeah, I think where it gets, like when we went to this coffee plantation, and they were using kids to pick the coffee beans, right? And these were kids, like 10, 12 years old, and these were long, hot days, man. Like we're talking like 8 to 10 hour days, and that's gnarly, like that is, that's not okay,
Yeah,
for anyone to expect a kid,
Do they have a union over there?
I doubt it. Oh man,
no, there is no union, man.
Nah.
Oh, I think you get smacked if you are not gonna do work.
Yeah, I guess like we're such consumerists here, and we don't even think where our stuff comes from, and you don't have to look too. You can go on YouTube, and I'm always watching these documentaries on YouTube about these other countries and some of the illegal things that go on, and it's mind blowing what's happening, and we're so lucky here in New Zealand because we're not exposed to any of that. Yeah.
And that's the thing where I've met a lot of I've traveled around the world a lot, and you see a lot of things, and that's why I always when I meet anybody, I say, man, you need to travel.
Man.
You need to go. And see the world and experience things, and you. Like what you're saying, and you have people who they're so comfortable in this, really nice, cushioned environment, and they haven't gone through like hardship and experiencing like being halfway across the world without any clothes. It's that scary, man. Like you have nothing.
Yeah, I think if you don't expose yourself to that stuff, some people go right through their lives, right, without really exposing themselves to uncomfortable situations. Because you can do that. You can really box yourself in like that. But at some point in life, something's going to happen. And the ones that don't expose themselves, they get through life and something big happens and they can't handle it. Yeah, so the exposing yourself to that stuff is the gold, man. That's where all the good shit is, right? It's like, breaking down those barriers.
Exactly,
and
man.
Yeah. And so, traveling for me was really about that. It was really about when I grew up out here. I grew up with a lot of mates out here, and we're all very tight, and it was felt like a very safe environment. And Piha's a small place, and so it was like, man, I need to get out of here and like challenge myself a bit. And I learned more from traveling from I left school and I wasn't that great at school, so
same. We're no university graduates, brother.
Yeah, and at the school I went to, Auckland Grammar, they had a grading system, right? You're in either A, which is for all the smartest guys, or you're in L, and I was in M, so it goes down to L, so it's like. Yeah. It was like this realization. It was like, oh man, I'm dumb.
But we all are, bro. We all are.
But it was like, when I left school, I didn't, because of that, I thought, man, I'm not going to go to university because I'm not academic. And I wasn't into the sporting side of grammar because I just wanted to be out here surfing. And they didn't have surfing at school, But when I left and I went traveling, that was, for me, that was all my learning took. That was, you know, my
Life
degree was
experience.
going traveling.
Exactly, man. Life experiences is street smart, you know, like, bro.
Yeah, I wasn't that street smart when I was traveling. I was kind of like, would get myself into all sorts of terrible situations.
But, you know, that's what's interesting is I think, you know, put it this way, even when you travel, I just feel like it's a better, you know, it's a better experience altogether when you experience shit.
Yeah.
You know? If it's smooth sailing as well, like, you know, it kind of...
The thing is, you can go traveling and be really comfortable as well, right? Like my travels were all about, I had a rule, I'd never stay in the backpackers, ever. They were like, you know, I would avoid them like the plague. I wanted to stay with a family, you know, like...
the locals.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like... So for me, that was so much more rewarding than staying in the backpackers and being comfortable with all these other people that, you know, that you could form a clique with or whatever, you know. Like I like to get away, and I like to go away from the tourist destinations. You know, I went to Machu Picchu, and it was like, man, you know, you catch a bus there and you go up with a whole lot of fat Americans, and then you stand there and there's like 1,000 people, and that to me was like, yeah, Machu Picchu is amazing, but the experience was nowhere near as good as the experiences I had of, you know, going somewhere that was off the
grid
tourist trail. Yeah.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say fat Americans, sorry.
Yeah, but
but there's a lot of fat Americans.
Bro, exactly. And I think the other one that I recently heard as well was like, you know, how a lot of people trying to climb Everest, you know, and some companies, they don't really care about your experience, your fitness and all that crap.
Wow, man.
And bro, think about it, like, fuck, you know, some of these fellas have never even climbed a mountain before, man. And you're gonna climb Everest, and how do you expect not to die, man?
Yeah.
Like,
well, Everest is a great example of how tourism has ruined a location, you know. Like, look at the pollution and base camp and all the problems that they're having there now with the Sherpas and things like that.
Pile of crap.
They're all starting to fight and bicker, and it's all about money. And, you know, I've been to so many places where you can see tourism and the dollar ruin these small villages and places like that, where I think they'd be a lot better without the tourism, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons.
Yeah,
whatever,
for sure, yeah.
But I think there needs to be like sort of a balance, you know, because you've got to keep the people who live there happy.
Yeah,
and they've got to, you know.
Yeah, there's a balance for sure. You were talking about how you lived in Bali for a while, and that place is like bursting at the seams, right? And you know, that's one of the biggest tourist destinations in the world, and that's created a thriving economy there. But it also brings its problems with pollution and overcrowding, and you know, prostitution, and you know, all these things that the tourist dollar and tourism brings to a location.
Yeah, but you know, since we're on the topic of Bali, you know, the pandemic has really, you know, hit them hard. And
bro, my mate lives there, and he sends me the busiest street in Bali is Poppies. You know, Poppies Lane.
Jalan Poppies, 1 and 2, and stretch.
Yeah, and he lives there. He's a Kiwi guy from here, Nick Niauchung.
Yeah. Nick.
Yeah. So he lives over there, and he puts photos up sometimes of you know, Poppies 1 and 2. It's just dead. You know, no people at all. So that's, you know, how they deal with that over there is like, because they are so dependent on, you know, tourism.
Exactly, yeah. And you know, like, you're talking about Poppies and, you know, Jalan Kuta, you know, Jalan Legian and all that, you know, and then everybody, you know, in the recent years, everybody shifted to Canggu. You know? That's where they're new.
Yeah, the cool pockets. Yeah. Bro, when the first time I went to Canggu, there was one place to stay.
Bro, that was
one place, man. And to get like food in that, we would go back to the main road, which is like a 20-minute
20-minute ride, yeah.
And then, you know, over the years you'd go and it'd get a little bit more built up. But I didn't go there for like 10 years, and I went back again, and I was just and I was going back to these places that I'd been 10, 15 years ago, and I'd you know, be there for an hour and I'd be like, man, I need to get out of here. It's
shocking,
just
the last time I went to Canggu, and I was like, yo,
it's cool, man. That place is the whole of Bali is just it's but it is just one of the coolest places.
Exactly, one of the coolest places in the world, man. And I've seen a few
smells,
places,
the culture,
everything,
the
the people,
food,
bro,
the surf.
The surf as well. Like for me, I didn't really, you know, indulge in a lot of the surfing, but, you know, I understand, and, you know, I meet a lot of people who come for the surf, and they live, you know, for the surf and all that. But yeah, you know, it's just sad, like, to see the situation now. Like, they're really struggling. You know, tourism is like their main source of income. You know,
Yeah.
and you know, I have mates who are like, you know, they either tour guides or you know, drivers or whatever, like, and they're struggling, man. And it's hard. It's sad, bro. It's sad to see. And you know,
We adapt though, man. We just adapt. That's humans are the best species at adapting, you know.
Exactly. And
So
well, I hope that things get better for them. And you know, I don't know, a vaccine or whatever, man. Like, because yeah, it's, you know, it's hard sometimes when you see your mates like struggling, you know, to the point where, like, you know, for me, I always try to, no matter how hard it gets, I still try to push through without asking people for help. You know, I'm not saying it's wrong to ask for help. Like, if you need help, ask for help, man. Like, not a problem. But when someone I know really close to me, it has to like ask for help for food, you know, that, you know, it's tough times.
That's gnarly. Yeah.
You know, it's tough times. And it was sad to me. Like, a really good mate of mine, you know, reached out to me, and I said, bro, I'll help you out. You know, like, it's not a problem.
Yeah, of course.
But you know, at the same time, I hope that he can find something else to support himself, because at the end of the day, I feel, for me, I have different views on certain things. Like, you can help, you know, for someone who needs cash, like if they're short on money or whatever, like, I have no problems giving, you know, to help, but you want to help them in a way that they're able to support themselves and be able to make
sustainable. Yeah,
exactly. You know,
I'm a little bit short on cash.
Aren't we all? I think I need a new $7,000 camera. Nah, you know, just like, yeah, just all that experiences, man, bro. We've actually talked quite a bit about traveling, man. We can go on, but anyway, I want to get back a little bit to that later. But anyway, before we drift too far, Dave, we've actually drifted like quite a bit. But anyway, Dave,
just talking about our travels,
bro, it's awesome. I love this kind of talks, man. It's like, bro, I think maybe most people have not heard that story, you know, before. So man, that's a pretty good one. Anyway, Dave, could you, for those who don't know who you are, could you give us like a brief introduction about yourself, about what you do, you know, with this movement workshop and all that?
Yep. Brief introduction is I was born and raised in Piha here. And I'm proud. I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of being a Westie, and I'm proud of saying that I'm from Piha. I never say I'm from Auckland. When people ask, I'm from Piha. Oh, that's in Auckland. Well,
a little bit out of the way, but
yeah. So I grew up out here surfing and lifeguarding, and that really shaped. You know, living out here really shaped the way. I guess it took for me to go overseas and then come back here to realize how special this place is. The energy here, you know, you got the Waitakere Ranges, the black sand and the Tasman Sea, and it's just this melting pot of energy, and you feel that energy. And you know, a lot of people don't like the winters out here. I love the winter. I love the storms. I love the rain. I love the wind. I love it when the surf's big. And then so the environment out here is something that I love. And the great thing about it is I've managed to harness a way to use the environment out here to help run this business with where we're taking this. And we run something called IronSand Training, which is using the coast here, the beach, the water, the Waitakere Ranges in terms of training. So it's the environment here is unique. You know, I find that it helps people really get connected with the environment, because you know, nowadays we live in cities and we're very disconnected. You know, you think, I have clients and I sometimes ask them, you know, in an entire week, how many times do your feet actually touch the earth's surface? And they sit down and they think about it, and it's like, never. You know, you're inside or you're at work and you come home and you're back inside. We're just insulated, you know. And so this training is really a way of getting connected with the environment, and the black sand is incredibly powerful.
Hey you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. This thing you're saying about the black sand, is there like how what does it do for you, like?
Well, the black sand is volcanic, right? It's like it comes from Taranaki. Okay. It comes from volcanic rock in Taranaki that over the thousands and thousands of years has drifted down and deposited on the shoreline here. So, man, there's some crazy energy in the black sand, and if you've ever been out here and you've come down on a sunny day and you've walked on the black sand, you'll feel the energy because it heats up to about 100 degrees and you can't stand on the stuff, But it offers this natural resistance, to movement. And that resistance is incredible because, a lot of the delayed onset muscle soreness and discomfort or pain that we get from training is actually the ligament and the tendon in the joint being stressed. And in the sand offers this natural resistance where we spare the ligament, the tendon, the joint, and the muscle really absorbs a lot of that force. And so when I do that type of training, I don't feel like I need recovery. I feel like the next day I'm like, man, I'm ready to go. And where this training has come from is, I have hip osteoarthritis and I've had bilateral hip surgery. And so, I wouldn't go for a run along the road or anything like that because it would flare my hips up. And I was going for a surf one day and I saw the sand dune and I was like, man, I think I'm going to try running up there, And I went over to the sand dune and I ran up and down and my hips just felt good, it felt, and I could feel the muscle absorbing the force, and I was like, man, and that's how really I started this IronSand training. I was thinking, there's something incredible here where we could get these athletes out who are, to get them out of their comfort zone or get them training in a different environment to really be able to push them and not have the same type of recovery that they'd require if they were, if they
somewhere else.
Yeah. And then, the other side of the business is, I started this business basically as a result of my own dysfunction, my own hip dysfunction and pain. I developed chronic pain, and I started looking for someone for help, and that started a process of going to the hip surgeon, the muscular therapist, the acupuncturist, the physio, all these people that I was looking to fix me. And the problem is that a lot of these people are specialized. And when you become specialized, you have a very narrow, your focus is narrow. And I sort of thought, man, if I could get all these people in a room, the acupuncturist, the muscular therapist, and, all these skilled people to work together, I would probably be able to, make some progress. But that's a very hard thing to do, right?
Yeah,
and it costs a lot of money.
It does. And for, this specialists and experts to, to work together with some ideas they might not believe in or they don't want to agree with, it's hard.
It's hard, and I sort of came to the realization one day. I was seeing this guy who's touted as being, the guru in his field of muscular therapy, and I would go to him every week, and it's a couple of $100 to see him, and he'd get his thumb and he'd just push it into my hip and he'd rub up and down, and his specialization was, he was supposed to be a guy who could find scar tissue and release scar tissue. And
okay.
I have a background in health science, so I understand human physiology, anatomy, pathophysiology. I understand the human body, right? And I sort of just got to this point where I want to sound this guy out a little bit, see how he learnt this stuff. And, actually, he was just part of... I just came to the realization that he didn't know what he was doing. And I was like, holy shit, man, I need to stop relying on people and I need to learn this stuff myself. And that started when I get my mind fixed on something. It's like I become obsessed. Yeah, it's just like, man, I'm going to find a way to get myself out of dysfunction, to get myself out of chronic pain. And that, and that wasn't a linear process. I looked really deep into the nutrition side of things, anti-inflammatory food. And then I started looking at, the trigger point release, myofascial release, and strength and conditioning, and meditation and breathing work, and all of these things. But the problem is, I was focusing on one thing at a time, and I'd get really deep into that one thing, and it would help, but it was the progress was very gradual, And then I was like, man, I'm doing the same thing as what I was doing before, which was relying on one person or one thing. I was like, right, I'm going to bring this all together. And it was once I started bringing, the strength and conditioning, the prehab work, the trigger point release, the myofascial release, the breathing work, the meditation and the nutrition, I started getting better in leaps and bounds, because the body, a lot of the time we just got to get out of ourselves. The body wants to fix itself. It wants to find its equilibrium, homeostasis, and so, I started getting better in leaps and bounds, but my nervous system was still just out of... When you have chronic pain, you tend to brace a lot, and you tend to spend a lot of your time in an upregulated physically and physiologically upregulated, you know. And I was driving to Napier and I was listening to this podcast on breathing. A lady called Dr. Belisa Vranic, and she was talking about the relationship between breathing and pain, and how when we have chronic pain, we start bracing when we hold our breath, or we take really short, shallow breaths, and how that feeds into pain by activating the sympathetic nervous system. And I already understood this stuff, and so I was like, she talked about this breathing technique, and I did it as I was driving, and within 5 minutes, the pain in my hips had gone. And it was like, when I was driving, it was like I was sitting on glass, and you know, it was like I had glass in my hips. So I was like, I did this, and then it just, man, I was like, this breathing stuff is powerful. And so, yeah, I got really into the breathing in terms of being able to calm the mind and calm the nervous system. So the breathing is really a direct or an indirect way to alter your nervous system into a calm state, what we call a parasympathetic state.
Talking about the breathing, and you know, for those people who are watching, when I came here today, I was expecting to just do a podcast, but I got a text from Dave here who told me to get 4 bags of ice, and he actually made me do the ice bath.
Yeah. Well, so, you turned up in tracksuit pants and socks, and it was like, I was like, man, this is like 30 degrees, and then you told me you're from Singapore, and that made sense.
Yep, and then you know, I was really contemplating you know, the drive out here. I wasn't really prepared to do the ice bath, man. I was like, man, should I keep going? Should I just tell him that there were no ice? I was like, ah. But yeah, it's actually you know, I've had experiences with cryotherapy, is what I mentioned to you, and yeah, it was to be honest, it wasn't really as bad as I thought it was. You know, I don't know, maybe I have a higher pain tolerance. I can focus, or I don't know. I don't know what it was, but like
you're just a strong motherfucker. No, but I think, you know, when you came out and we talked about you getting in the ice bath, and that, you know, the response to cold, the physiological response to cold is to and so we talked a bit about that, and to how to control your breathing when you got in the ice bath, and you did that like down to a T, you know, inhale, hold, exhale, relax. And that was you know, the ability to take conscious control of your breathing rate and depth is so powerful, because it negates the stress response. And you know, getting in the ice cold is it's a very noxious stimulus, and it activates some very deep primal survival response. You know, it's like if you put your hand on a hot element, you take it straight off. If you get in the freezing cold water, it's the same thing. Everything in your body is telling you to get out. So, but if you can relax into that, use your breathing to control the level of stress, and then it becomes quite a pleasant experience, which is what I think you got out of that.
Yeah, I think after, usually I would say the first, maybe the first minute is the toughest. I think, like first 30 seconds. Maybe
it never gets easier, right? Like I you know, like I do the ice bath. I try to do it, you know, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, and it never gets easier. It's not like, oh, it's easy now. It's like every time that you get in, it's horrible, you know, like. That first sort of 20 seconds is like, oh, I don't want to get in, and especially if it's a cold morning or you're doing it in winter, you know, it's but you feel so good afterwards.
Yeah.
Now, go.
Sorry. You know, talking about feeling good afterwards, like I previously I wasn't on the ice bath program. I did cryotherapy, and at that period I was training for a fight, and so I'll be, you know, I have a full-time job, and then I was training. So I was I was training like 2 times a day at least, you know. So I was putting like a really heavy workload on my body. Like, it's insane. I don't know how I did, and I have like very little sleep, you know, at that time. Maybe if I was lucky, 6 hours, you know. So I was really, really pushing my body to like its limits, and I just wanted to find a way to help me recover. Because I'll put in the work. Like, it didn't matter to me how much work needed to be put in. I'll push through and I'll put in the work. But I just wanted my body to be able to recover faster. And I did cryo. And I got like, I think I did 2 or 3 sessions a week. And after I did that, like, I just felt so much so much better. Less sore. I felt lighter. You know, I just had more energy. I could push harder when I
Yeah.
needed to.
Yeah. There's some studies that have come out recently that sort of go against using ice baths for recovery.
Oh, why
And
is
that, and
that?
that you know, you're better off just to stretch, or and the study was looking at a group of people that would do. I can't exactly remember, but the water temperature was like 10 degrees, man. We're getting this water temperature down to 1 to 2 degrees. I don't know if there's a study that looks into that in terms of muscle recovery, but the way that I view recovery is, recovery is all about your nervous system. If your nervous system is stuck in an upregulated, in a sympathetic state, you're not going to have good recovery, because you're not going to sleep well. You're going to have an interrupted sleep, and you're going to be a stressed human being.
Exactly.
If you're able to control your nervous system and for your nervous system to be in a more relaxed state, a parasympathetic state where all the recovery takes place, right? Well, that's extremely powerful, to be able to control your nervous system like that. And we used to think that we never had control of the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, but we absolutely do. We absolutely do have the ability to control our autonomic nervous system through not only our mind, but also our breathing. And so then it becomes like, well, if you can get in an ice bath and control stress and be relaxed in a very stressful state, it's like a light switch goes off. It's like, well, if I can control that stress, then I can control this other stress in my life, And this is where it becomes very powerful in terms of recovery, but also very powerful for people that have, say anxiety or depression.
Exactly. I was just about to say that,
Yeah, where these people tend to create barriers, right? And they create like a comfort zone. And these barriers is what inhibits people with anxiety and depression getting better. They think that they're putting these barriers up to help, but as we know, all the good shit in life is pull down those barriers. And so when we get those people in the ice bath, and we teach them to use the breath to control stress and be able to relax in that environment, for them it's like a huge achievement. It's like, wow, man, if I can control that, because these people don't feel like they have control. Yeah, so it is incredibly powerful on a micro level. Getting in the ice bath and having control is, it ripples over into so many parts of
mentally, psychologically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, I was just about to say, people who have anxiety, like the problems is, just being able to control the breathing, because isn't that what they advise you for people who have anxiety? Like when you're having an attack, you want to control your breathing and like force yourself. And what better way to do that than to chuck you in an ice bath?
Yeah. Well, anxiety is just the stress response practiced over and over again. Nowadays we like to, someone pulls in front of us in the car and we get stressed, and then something else happens, and we don't tend to drop it. We want to talk about it, and then we want to put it up on social media, and we just can't let go of things nowadays, And because we're practicing stress all the time, we adapt. The nervous system adapts to stress. If you're stressed all the time, it activates the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system, the fight or flight or freeze. And so, if you practice all that time being stressed during the day a lot, like little things stress you a lot, then your nervous system over the months adapt to being more upregulated, more stuck in a sympathetic dominant tone. And then all of a sudden you have anxiety. So the people that we work with anxiety, it's about explaining to them the stuff so that they understand. When you don't understand something and you're feeling, if you're feeling anxious and you don't understand it, you don't understand why you're getting that tightness or the clammy hands or whatever, or the fast breathing, things that we don't understand are scary. Can be scary.
It is.
Or out of our control. So if you understand it, it becomes very powerful, because you can do something about it. And one of the first body systems that becomes upregulated when there's stress is the breathing. Because again, this is a very primal response. Back in the day, we needed the stress response if we were going into battle, or if there was, we were hunting and something was coming towards us, so that we could either run away or go towards it, to prepare our bodies for battle. But nowadays, it's little things that are constantly stimulating that.
Heaps, I get what you mean exactly. And like, it's how they say when, someone's shooting a gun, like you never know which direction you're going to go, towards or away.
Yeah. Well, when you see these big events happen on TV, like the explosions and the terrorist attacks, people do one of two things. They either run away or they freeze. Yeah. And
you have a very small percentage that go towards the danger.
it. Yeah. But, if we're working with this one guy at the moment who has a fear of like the surf, and when it gets a bit bigger, right? And that can sometimes elicit a panic attack for him. And so what do we do? What do we do with that person? First of all, we teach them good breathing patterns, the ability to be able to control the breathing rate and depth when they're confronted with that stress. But then what do? We move towards it. We get him out here and we take him out on the surf and we get him to move towards fear, because when you do that, when you move towards, and obviously you're not going to do that in every scenario, right? Because that'd be stupid. But, irrational fears, we need to learn to move towards them, because that strengthens a part of our brain that's associated with being rational and drumming down that fear, panic response.
I think one of the reasons why like I might be better at like controlling the breathing and being relaxed is because I work at height. So when I first started doing the work that I do, the abseiling work and all that, one of the first, bro, this is crazy, I think might have been like the first or the second job, was climbing over a building that was close to, I would say maybe about close to 100 over meters, bro.
I hate heights, man.
Bro, and I was standing on the edge there, and like, bro, your knees are shaking, like your whole body's shaking. You're like, shit, what did I get myself into? And first time, it's a little bit scary. You're still shaking a little bit. Second time, gets
that
better.
Exposure, right?
Yeah. Third time, and like, after a few times, like you just jump over the building. It's easy. Like, there's just, I don't, because I think that's the other thing as well. Like, when you learn about your equipment and you're confident in the stuff that you use and everything that you're doing, like all the steps are right. Like, I just leave it to fate, man. If something does happen, it's beyond my control. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
This is beyond me now. I've done everything that I can in my power to ensure that, I'm not going to kill myself.
Yeah.
But, I think that, like heights, bro. I used to be afraid of heights, man. And I went there, and you see like people was looking at me like walking, because that was my first few jobs, and I was just walking on the ledge, like easy, and you had your ropes and all that, but you're comfortable, man.
Yeah, that's the repetitive exposure, that experience, and man, one of the most powerful things that we can do in life is go towards those irrational fears that we have, and with the fighters, like you can see the ones that have repetitive exposure and experience, that the 50 plus fights, where I'm sure when they first started fighting, they didn't have good control of their stress, or they would get anxious, but it's that repetitive, just keep going back towards it again and again and again, and you figure it out, right? You just figure it out. And then all of a sudden, you're going into these fights and you're very calm, and you're, your fight week is very calm and you're controlled, and, and then we could talk about all the other stresses, all the external noise, and all that stuff that goes on around the build up to fights, and
like
which we may not be that used to, as you start
exactly
getting towards that elite
elite level as well. Talking about fighters and all that. For those who don't know, Dave actually works with you work with a lot of the UFC fighters, the boys at City Kickboxing, and not just. I'm sure there are fellas from other gym as well. So like the top boxers, from Junior Far, the top UFC boys from the champion like Israel. You work with Dan, Kai, Brad, and all these guys. What I want to know is like, because you from previously, like from experience, in the surfing community, like you work with triathletes as well, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, with all sorts, eh?
Yeah,
It's
you know,
like,
and
work with the guy down the road who's got back pain.
exactly, you know, you it doesn't matter who it is, you know. What is your experience like working with those boys, the fighters? What was the most interesting or the most challenging thing about working with them was?
I think, I started working with a couple of the guys from CKV, and straight away I enjoyed it, you know, because fighting is like, you know, there's other sports that if you don't put in the work and, you know, you may lose and then, you know, that night you'll be out partying or like, you know, but in a fight, if you don't put the work in, you're going to get, you know, you're potentially going to get knocked out or choked out or... So the stakes for me, I feel like it's so much higher, and that makes it kind of quite interesting, right? And the other thing about the fighters is I feel like they're really open to exploring new ways of doing things. I found that really refreshing. It's like, man, we've got this breathing stuff, and they were all very interested and engaged. And
what is that? How
yeah,
do we do it?
because they're looking for that edge, right? Because the stakes are so high, they're looking for that edge. And like, I mean, that's the same as any sport, really. Exactly, but yeah, I found that the fighters sort of were open to the stuff a lot more, which made it easier. Because when you mention like, you know, breathing's not the only thing that I don't want to box myself in here. Breathing's not, but when you talk about breathing, I think you're instantly, there's that connotation of like, oh, you're a yogi, you're a hippie. There's nothing wrong with those two things, but that's sort of like the, we just don't think about breathing in terms of performance. And it is one of the biggest missing parts of performance. Not only in, you know, your ability to control your mind, but also in terms of endurance and power production and all these really important facets of performance. So yeah, with these guys, I felt like they were open to the stuff and they took it on, and that was amazing. And then the other thing I love about working with fighters is like this build up, right? This build up to an event. Ooh. Which is a fight, you know, and I get very engaged in that. Like, man, I've watched every interview and every, like, I like watching the fights, but the part that I particularly like is the minute in between the rounds. I like to really see, you know, how is this person managing their energy output? What is their breathing doing? What, you know, how quickly can they recover? Because that's such a big part of winning and fighting. Is how quickly can you recover in that 1 minute? And, you know, what do they look like in the walk out to the ring? Are they relaxed? And you can pick up so many cues. And so, yeah, there's this big build up to the fight, but there's also all this other stuff that goes around and you know, watching the interviews and I find that really interesting. And
it is.
I just find the personalities as well, you know, like the personalities of the fighters and then I get very like,
hey you, don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video.
Yeah, so when I'm working with someone, I get really invested in that person, like, and you know, if they don't achieve, like if they lose or they don't achieve what I feel, you know, I feel that, and I like that as well, you know. It's just like
keeps you accountable, like
yeah, and and so even though I've got a very small amount of input into these guys' fight camps, like a very small amount, I still feel like when they don't achieve what they want to achieve, I feel that, you know. It's like
you're part of the, and that's the thing with a team is you're part of it, you know. Like if you don't feel anything, something's wrong, you know. That means you're not really invested or you don't really care.
Yeah.
But it's when you do feel, you're like, you know, man, okay. You know, let's try to work on this a little bit more. Let's try to, you know, I'm not saying that it's not working well. And one of the other things that, you know, you've just mentioned about like from the walkout and all that, I want to mention about Junior Far's fight with Joseph Parker that happened yesterday. Yeah. You know, and you know everything.
Are we going to break this fight down?
No, we're not gonna. Oh man, I would like to, but anyway, we'll do that another time. But you know, everything from down to his walkout, you know, it was very calm, very relaxed. During the fight, in moments of pressure, I was watching, you know, like he was breathing really calm. In between the rounds, really calm, control, like he did, you know, his breathing was awesome. And even I think the one I need to mention is when he got the cut He got the cut and he still fought on with the cut. He was so relaxed. Like, and that for people who, you know, when you get a cut close to your eye, it is actually like a problem because the fight can be stopped.
Yeah.
You know, if a dog comes in and, you know, and we've seen that happen before, you know, a couple of times. It depends on the ref and it depends on the doctor, the ringside doctor. So like a lot of fighters, you know, who get, I think one fight that I want to talk about was Tyson Fury's fight with I can't remember his opponent's name, but he wasn't like a big name or anything, but he actually hurt Tyson Fury early on in the fight, and I think he was leading a little bit on the, I wouldn't, maybe not, but I don't want to say, but I think Tyson Fury was very careful to make sure that that cut didn't get worse because he didn't want that fight to get stopped, because you have to remember at the end of the day, like when it goes, you know, like all in the cases that we have seen yesterday, when it goes down to the judges, sometimes it's you know, it's a little bit funny, and you know, we've seen especially, I think boxing really known for this, the judging.
There's so many examples of
that. You know, but like especially boxing, like some of the scorecards are insane, man. Like you know, I don't even know which fight they're watching, or you know, there's a lot of bias.
It seems bizarre to me sometimes.
Yeah, it's bias, and you know, one of the reasons was I heard a Teddy Atlas. Are you familiar with Teddy Atlas? Yeah. So one of the talks that, and I like listening to Teddy. He's very deep fella. You know, he goes like real into, you know, stuff. And one of the things that he highlighted was about judgings, and you know, for big promoters, like in this case will be in the US, and like the night before the fights, like the promoters, you know, the main promoter, and like all the officials, the judges, the refs, they're all having dinner together, man. Like, you know, what is that telling you, you know? And whose side would you be? You know, if you know,
that probably wouldn't happen in any other sport.
Whose side are you leaning towards when those sort of stuff happens? And you know, like the recent one, you know, besides Junior's fight, will be like the Lomachenko and Lopez fight. You know, I think one judge had like 10 rounds or something to Lopez, and I was like, you know, and
it can be kind of complexing, eh?
It is crazy, and like, you know, well, I mean, I don't want to knock on anybody's head about the fights yesterday, but like I think there was one judge that gave 119, 109, and that one just, you know, it surprised me. Like, you know, I don't know what fight this person was watching, but you know, it was a little bit more, you know, closer than that. You know, like there's a lot of things that come into play, and I'm no boxing judge, man, but like,
I'm definitely no boxing. I mean, I don't know a lot about fighting, but I can sit there and watch it on the TV and try not to be biased and be like, wow, this is close, man. This is so close. This could go either way. And then you see the scores and you're like, am I like, okay, well.
And this is what is destroying, man, the sport of boxing. Like even Teddy Atlas talks about it. Like this needs to, you know, okay, you have drug testing organizations to test the fighters. You have like, you know, weight cuts. You have so many things to regulate the fighters. But now who the heck's regulating the officials, the judges, you know, the refs? Like,
yeah, I think, you know, if you're the underdog and you're coming into a fight, I guess, you know, you've got to do, you can't just do enough, I guess. You got to really put a stamp on it, eh? And that's what it seems like in boxing in particular. You know, if you're coming in and as you know, you're ranked below or whatever, it can't be like close because it feels like the decision.
You already are if it goes to like 12 rounds, like you are already at a disadvantage there.
Yeah, but anyway, Junior looked...
He looked awesome, man.
I'm so proud of that guy, and so proud to be associated with such a humble...
He's a gentle giant, man.
Yeah,
he is, you know, and
then he can pull out that beast mode, you know. It's like
exactly, and you know, I really enjoy. There were you know, parts where he had burst. He was doing real well, and I can tell you, man, the atmosphere in the crowd was crazy. And this is, you know, this is gonna get some people upset, but I can tell you that Spark Arena yesterday was cheering for Junior Fa.
Yeah.
They
the
were,
underdog. Everyone
bro,
loves the underdog.
Yeah, they were cheering him on, man. And I was quite surprised. You know, I was really surprised because, you know, Joseph Parker was more of like the name of, you know, the more familiar name. He had a bigger following and all that sort of stuff. But when I was there watching the fights yesterday, people were cheering Junior Fa on throughout the fight. Every time Junior landed a combo or he landed a few shots, and be like, whoa, you know, and I was like, I was quite surprised, you know. And,
it's I never thought that I would ever be working with, like, you know, someone like Junior or any of these other guys. You know, it's not what I envisaged, but yeah, I just they're all such good human beings, you know.
Exactly,
you know, the guys like you know, Kai and Brad and John Bruin and BJ Quicksandland and
Israel,
you know,
and all of them, man, all of the boys.
All these guys that come in, and it's just like you can just shoot the shit, you know. It's like they're just good blokes, and the girls, you know, like they're lethal weapons, you know, like the chicks that are coming, the
Jenna,
girls that are coming
Gina,
into the
Baby,
and Mia,
you know,
and
Mia, all of them.
And they're so focused on what they do, and all these guys are so focused on what they do, and I really take motivation from that, and that's why I enjoy working with these fight athletes so much.
It's like the IronSand Training, but with other people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's just something. I think there's like something to gain from everybody, you know, and you know, all the people that you meet and all that, like. Yeah, it's just, you know, even like all the podcasts that I do with, you know, all my guests, I always pick certain things and I'll keep it.
Yeah.
And I'll use it for myself, you know.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, man. And you know, I'm quite gutted for Junior. But you know, one thing I can say is he definitely showed the world that he's world class. He belongs up there. There are only a handful of people who, you know, who have gone 12 rounds with Joseph Parker.
Yeah.
And this just goes to show what Junior is capable of. And this guy, he's not even I would say he's not even at his peak yet, man. You know, and can you...
Yeah, well, he had a bit of adversity, you know, to get through, and
even
man,
before.
that's just all part of the story, you know. That's all part of this cool story that's going on in the background. And we just think about, you know, a lot of people looking from the outside in just think, you know, this is all just about fighting, and it's not. You know, fighting is actually a small part of it. It's all this other stuff that, you know, the process to get there that, you know, is building the character and the person, you know. And you know, his process, being a part of that, building up to this fight was just cool to be part of, to see him go through that adversity. And
exactly, man.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you know, the world, you know, whoever, you know, who has watched yesterday or who are going to come to know about it, you know, they'll pay attention, you know, to Junior's like career. Because I think one of the, you know, the tougher things about like boxing, and it's, you know, it's quite heavily criticized, is when someone takes a loss, you know, like boxing works a little bit different than MMA or the UFC, you know. But you know, I'm sure he'll come back stronger, and you know, he's gonna get better, and he's gonna fight, you know, world class elite opponents. And you know, I'm just so excited for that guy's journey. He's only getting started, man. And you know, hats off to Joseph Parker as well, because like it was not easy for someone who comes up with that kind of game plan, like, you know. And at the end of the day, both of them, you know, one thing I respected, man, like at the end of the fight, both teams got together and they took a photo. I don't know if you saw
cool,
it on and it's like, man,
how often
do you see that, man? You know,
but you see all the trash talk in the fighting, and at the end they're just like,
I think even I think they just, you know, the trash talk, you know, sometimes it has to be done just to build it up, you know, garner some interest and stuff like that. But they were really respectful to each other, you know, and even like
I thought that was
fight.
cool. I thought that
it's awesome. That's how I think, like, you professionals, man, like,
just be a good just be a good human, man. Just you don't need all the bullshit sometimes.
Well,
yeah.
but that's the thing. This
That's
is the
thing.
entertainment business, man. Like you've got to,
we get it.
You got to ruffle some feathers. You got to
Yeah.
stir the pot a little bit. That's what you got to do. But
that's part of the competition. Yeah, that's
exactly.
all. But we saw that in the face-off, and
one interesting one is like Tyson Fury. He has he's big into like ruffling feathers and like he tries to get into people's head before the fights, press conferences. Like he just he tries to piss people off and throw them off edge. And I guess that is a tool as well, as much as like we have breathing, the mental side.
100% it is. Yeah.
It's a
the
tool,
whole man. Look, it's people talk about it all the time. The mental battle, and that was the biggest part of performance is the mental side of it, and it is such a huge part of it. And when we work with the athletes, we do this thing, right? When I work with the athletes, we do this thing where we write down the different body systems, the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the breathing system, the respiratory system, and we break the body down into these systems, right? And we say, how much time, energy, and focus are you putting into each one of these systems? And the two body systems that always come up is the two that people are putting the least amount of time, energy, and focus into is the breathing system and the nervous system. So we think of the nervous system in terms of training like the meditation, the mindfulness, the visualization. And then the breathing is actually creating an adaptation to your breathing system, to your respiratory system, which we can do through training the mechanics of breathing and things like CO2 tolerance. And those two body systems are the most important body systems in order to be calm under pressure and to maintain mental focus. And generally we're putting the least amount of time and energy and focus into them.
And just a shout out to David Neath as well, who works with Junior.
Yeah.
And and you can see, like, you looked at Junior.
I watched the podcast with him on. Yeah.
The one I did with David, yeah, man.
Yeah.
He's
David Neath.
Yeah, that's
Man Mountain.
He's the guy. Big Dave, man, he's the guy, man, for when you look at Junior yesterday, like I see a combination of all these people who work with him, behind him, bro. Like yourself, like David, like Doug, Eugene, and like the team members, the sparring partners, people in the gym. When I look at him, I see all these other people as well. And it's like this combination of everything, bro. And, just how he was, like how he brought himself yesterday, man. Like it was amazing, bro. It was, it's something that you see that's of a champion. Like when you look at Israel walk out to his fights, like I saw that in Junior yesterday, like just everything.
Yeah, the combination of the people is such an important thing, because when I look back at my life and even like my traveling and things like that, when I found hardships or times that were difficult, it was always the people, right? It was always the people. There would always be a person come out of the woodworks that would help you through that period, and so you start realizing how important these social interactions are and certain people in your life, right? And when I look back at these events in my life where these people came forward and they were very pivotal in my ability to keep moving forward, when you realize how that important that is, you can sort of come at this from, I guess, like a different from the training part of it, in terms of a different angle of like you want to give back, right? Like if you've had people in your life that have been really pivotal and helped you want to give back to the people that you're close to, like your family, your friends, or the people that you're training. And so part of all this thing is just like your story, like your own story of your own life and your practical skills that come into your skill set of being able to work with people and getting on the same level as people and understanding people, because they're all different, right? Like you can have the best training methods and all that stuff, and there's someone that knows much more about breathing than me, but it's like, well, it's pointless unless you can get on the same level and be able to engage. And so it's like the story is important.
Exactly, man. Just on that thing as well, the other one I want to mention is just before Junior's fight when Hemi Ahio, the Heat Ahio,
That was a crazy fight.
That was insane.
It was just like watching someone chopping down a tree. It was just like this slow.
It was crazy, man. Like
and how that guy took some of those shots is, I don't know, man.
Bro, it's
like
insane. But he was a big fella, you know. But
Hemi showed incredible from just watching from just like his composure,
his work
and I
rate,
thought
and
watching it, to be honest, I thought that Hemi came in, he did the performance breathing workshop that we did, and from that, and then watching the fight, I thought, man, his breathing capacity might be a factor here, but his breathing looked so good. Man. He was going back in between the rounds, and I was watching his breathing, and it was not labored; it was very controlled. So, man, whatever he's done over,
bro, he was like, you look at it, and that guy was like twice his size, and Hemi was pushing him around, pushed him on the ropes, and Hemi was just like he took some of his big shots, but Hemi just kept coming back. And Hemi like really just chopped him down.
I really enjoyed just watching that.
Whoa, that was crazy.
Because you knew like it was probably going to come, but you also knew that just one punch from that guy, like, I mean, his arms were bigger than my legs, like it was a bizarre thing to watch, just the height difference, and
crazy, man.
And he got hit by a couple of shots, right?
And
man,
from watching that fight, we can say that number one, Hemi Ahio has a granite chin for sure. Like that guy has a chin. I don't know.
I like Hemi's style, man. I like his style.
Like his Mike Tyson-ish style, and
he's just happy. He's in there.
He's smiling and shit. And when he had the guy, at the corner, and he was like smacking him, and he was, and he like called the guy back to go to the middle to like box, and the guy didn't want, and man, it was crazy. He was smiling and laughing, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he was enjoying himself. That's there was a few mentions of that last night. You've got to be enjoying yourself,
exactly,
right?
He was enjoying himself. Like he was smiling, and he has this savage smile. I don't know if people, it's dangerous when Hemi smiles. You might want to be a bit concerned, like you don't know what he's up to, or his just functions, and his work rate was insane.
It was, yeah. He was very fit. One of the boys was telling me that he trained like with a weight vest. I don't know, like if I'm allowed to give the secrets out here, but
you don't got to share too many things.
He trained with the weight vest on for a little bit, and
crazy, man. Like the
like just all his workouts was.
I don't know, but whatever he's doing,
am I allowed to release that? Am I give myself in trouble?
I think there's a lot of people do like the whole weight vest.
Yeah, obviously,
there's so many things.
Yeah, the weight vest is cool because it's like
exactly.
It's the same as the sand. You add resistance. Exactly. You box in a weight vest, or like I do this thing where I hold some dumbbells, and I'm like, and then you drop the dumbbells, and it's like obviously you feel so much lighter, and it's the same thing with the weight vest. It's the same thing as the sand. It's the same thing as training in the water. There's this guy Laird Hamilton. Have you heard of him? He's a big wave surfer in Hawaii, and he's come up with this extreme performance training, and they do a lot of training in the pool. Right, this underwater training, but also using weights in the pool, like doing squats, and they use a deep pool, right? Like the pool's way over your head, and they do things like treading water with the weights on, and they do all this stuff in the pool, and it's the added resistance of the pool. I love that. I love like this 360 degrees of resistance, and that's why I love the sand stuff as well, because you've got this added resistance, and then when you take that resistance away and you're back on normal training surface, you can feel it. I was looking like on YouTube the other night, and one of the top English soccer teams, Man United.
No, don't ask me about soccer, but I don't.
But they have their own sand training pitch, and anyone that's doing coming off injury or doing recovery, or if they want to add this other dynamic, they train in the sand pit. And so I thought that was cool. I was like, man, there's these top level, because they have all the like research and science and everything available to them, right? And I was like, man, that's cool. Like I want to replicate some of the stuff with the training that we're doing on the beach. I want to make this more accessible to people, and more accessible to tap into this environment out here, which is
You know what's interesting? You mentioned about like doing stuff underwater and all that. Have you ever heard of Huet, HUET, which is helicopter underwater escape training?
Ah, man, that sounds.
Oh, bro, I tell you what, bro. Okay, so for those who might already know, like, I don't think a lot of people know, but I used to work in offshore in the oil and gas
Yeah,
industry.
you're saying.
So one of the prerequisites to work offshore is you need to do a BOSIET course, which is offshore safety and stuff like that, blah blah blah. Okay, so one of the things that's in that BOSIET is a helicopter underwater escape training. So what they do is they've got this, like, I think it's like 4 or 5 meter pool, and there's a crane that has a part of a chopper, and you're gonna sit in that chopper, and they will put you in the water. They'll put you
It's
down.
like your worst nightmare, right?
Yeah, and so you got no goggles or whatever. Like, they'll put you in the water, and it'll spin you like a washing machine, and you got to be strapped in your seat. It'll spin you a few times.
Disorientating.
Yeah, and then when it stops, you need to be able to locate your
You need to be able to focus.
your safety
and
belts.
Locate your
You
belt,
need to
yeah.
open. You need to, and it's a four-way attachment. So like 2 from each side, 2 from the top. So you've got to like properly spin it, open it, look. And the thing is, you have to be very calm during this whole time, because you can't. You've just been spun around like in a washing machine, and you don't know where is what. Like your sense of direction is gone.
Yeah, if you're not calm, you can't make rational decisions, right?
Exactly. And so you've got to open that clip. You've got to make sure all 4 disengage. And then you've got to locate the glass. You've got to push the glass and like sort of break the glass, or not break, but you've got to open the window. So all these chopper windows they can be easily open, actually.
Yeah, I think if you end up in a chopper in the water, you're pretty.
Yeah.
It's a simulation.
Yeah. So you got to open that and then swim out. So usually they make it that it's upside down, and then you got to do everything upside down. So it's pretty intense, bro. It's pretty intense. And
that's like that type of training is just so invaluable, of taking people out of their natural environment that they train in and putting them in a totally unfamiliar environment. And that to me sounds like, I just think that's claustrophobic, that's disorientating. If you don't remain calm, if you don't have good ability to manage stress and stay calm, then you're not going to be able to.
Bro, I know what you mean. And the one thing I hated about that was
so you did this.
I had to do it a couple of times.
So how did you find that when you were like?
First time it was a little bit tough, but then after the second one, I was like,
but you're a calm guy, right? We've seen that this morning, right?
And then like second time you get used to it.
But did some of the guys stress out?
This is what I said, why I hated it, because you do it in a group of 4 or 6 guys or whatever. So if somebody fucks up, bro, everybody's doing it again. And this is what pissed me off.
That's the pressure on that.
There were times where, some guys fucked up and like, that's
so
hard,
then they
bro.
made them go back and do it.
We all have to do it again, bro. And we like, man, if,
and so then there's extra pressure on that guy again.
but
so
I think after after like 2 times, bro, if this guy fucks up, and I think they'll redo with him. They'll give him another 1 or 2 tries. If he fails, he fails. Like they can't certify him. But the thing as well to understand with that, in the event of a chopper crash or heli crash, like reality is we're gonna die.
Yeah.
That's, to be real honest, it's really hard to survive a crash, out in the water,
They still give you a whistle on your life jacket though, like if you
they give you that, and it's crazy.
I think if you end up in the water in a plane, like you are fucked.
Yeah, you are fucked. And with the chopper as well. But though so this guy the trainer has experience, with a lot of people, and he has actually met one guy who survived the crash, bro.
In a helicopter.
And that was in Sabah.
Man, you'd never get in a helicopter.
Bro, the guy still carries on. He continues to work, bro.
Wow.
And he actually did his refresher course, and he told the story. But this guy, he has he has a really strong mind and a strong heart as well, because on that crash, he was the only one who survived. So that was like, he came to the course, and he told his story. He shared with the instructors and the trainers. And he told them, man, he said, look, whatever that you guys are doing, I lived because you guys helped, like maybe not that same trainer, maybe someone else, but whatever that they've learned here, he actually used that to help him.
Yes.
And he used that, and that was what kept him alive, man. And it takes a different kind of person to come back to do it again and still
Yeah.
get on a chopper, you know, and you
Yeah.
know, work in that kind of environment. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, we had a guy on a we did a group workshop, and we had this guy come in, and it was this with a whole lot of surfers, and this guy came in, and we did the ice baths, and we did the breathing before the ice baths, and you know, taught them how to control physiological and psychological stress through taking conscious control of the breathing. And we did, you know, a bit of work in this workshop on that. And anyway, he was surfing in Muriwai, and he lost his surfboard, and he was out, and he got sucked around the northern part of Muriwai in front of the rocks. And you know, he was saying that he was like, he started panicking. And like, when you panic in the water, it is literally the worst place to panic. Like, panicking on land is, you know, not so bad. You might, you know, panicking in the water, like, you can drown. And so he started panicking, and he told the story that he remembered back to the course and back to doing the breathing, and did that, sort of integrated the breathing in that moment. And he, you know, retelling the story, he reckons that it was like a huge part of him being able to get himself out of trouble. So it's like, yeah, the stuff like this training is so powerful, you know, the stuff that you're doing in the helicopter. And, you know, we are out here with this IronSand training that we're doing. And actually the IronSand training was just, has appeared on the UFC
Yes,
Embedded
we've got
today.
that. Yeah. Is it out today?
Yeah, it's out today.
Oh, cool.
So,
yeah, we want to check that out. I'm definitely going to check that out.
And they were
after.
focusing mainly on Israel, but there's a group of all the guys that came out.
The whole
like
team.
20 of them, yeah. I thought there was going to be 5 of them, but there's 20, so that was like interesting. Because the most I've ever done is like 2 or 3. But anyway, you know, we've got the resources out here with the guys to come and help and make it safe and all that, and the boat in the water. But it's the same thing as what you're talking about with the helicopter. When you get people that are not familiar with the ocean here, and the ocean out here is, I've been all around the world. This is some of the heaviest, roughest, you know, craziest ocean in the world right here. And so you're in this unfamiliar environment, and you're running through the water, you know, like at chest depth, and you've got waves coming in and hitting you. You've got to come under and recalibrate with your breathing and keep running, and there's holes and rips, and it becomes so like, when you're running through the water like that, it's almost like you become a little bit seasick because with the motion, like, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got guys doing this stuff like that have never, some of them haven't ever been in that environment. So it's totally unfamiliar. And then we get them doing the breath holds underneath the water, and they're getting washed around. It's the same thing. It's like, if you don't control it, like, right, if you don't allow yourself to be in a calm state, it becomes very stressful, and that is like what zaps your energy. That's, you know, chess players, they can use up to 6,000 calories in 2 days in a 2-day event. 6,000, wow. That's crazy. Why? Why are they using so much energy when they're just sitting there? Well, mental focus, you know, being mentally like, just really focusing creates quite a lot of stress. Your heart rate's up, your blood pressure's up, your breathing's up. And so you're using a lot of energy. We think of energy consumption in terms of like, you got to be doing stuff. No, you don't. In that fight with John Bruin, that last fight that he had, there wasn't a lot of like actual like engaging in terms of like big, you know, long flurries of punching and kicking, but the mental focus in that fight, like, I found that fight incredible, because he had to have, for that whole, 20, 25 minutes, 100% focus, because otherwise that guy was just standing there just waiting. Like, you could see it was one of those fights where if he just lost that, even a quick lapse in concentration, it was boom.
Yeah. And that was similar to Israel's fight with Youre Romero.
Yes, and you're using a lot of energy. You watch them, and it's like, man, they're pouring with sweat. The breathing becomes like quite heavy in that, and they're not engaging that much, but it's the mental focus. And the key here is like, for a sport like fighting, where you have to have 20 minutes of just sustained focus, you need to train for that. Yeah, you can train it like when you're sparring, and, you know, that naturally happens, but there are other really smart ways to be able to train this stuff. And that's what we're trying to now implement with these fighters and with these athletes, you know, creating one point of focus and maintaining your focus, because nowadays the mind is so agitated, right? Like, it's so easy because of technology, and because of like, we live in the city and there's all this stuff going on, and we're constantly, you know, our mind is constantly like just grabbing at things, right? And a fight is all about managing energy output. The lead up, to a fight is all about how good are you at managing your energy output. We want to be calm and relaxed, building up to the fight, but then we also want the ability to switch it on into that, boom, we're switching it on. And, I always use this example, a sniper. A sniper has to shoot someone from like 500-600 meters away. If they are slightly upregulated in terms of their physiology, if their breathing's up, their heart rate is up, it's the difference between, holding dead still and just a slight, very slight movement, right? You can't have that as a sniper. So they train this breathing, this cadence breathing, which is what we're trying to implement with these fighters. Inhale, hold, exhale, relax, hold. And what we do is we drop down the minute volume, the amount of times you breathe in a minute. And if you can drop down the amount of times you breathe in a minute to 5 to 6 times, you elicit a very calm state in your body.
Does long breath holds have some positive impacts? But
it does. I'll touch on that in a second. But these snipers, they train this breathing every day, right? So they adapt. They create an adaptation where they're able to switch it off. Most of us get stuck. We're unable to switch it on and truly switch it on. We're not able to truly switch it off. We're sort of stuck in the middle. But they train this breathing so they can elicit a very calm state. And they only have to do one cycle, right? One inhale, hold, exhale, relax. And because they've trained it so much, the nervous system is geared up to take that on and be able to transition very quickly into a calm state. And that's what we want to be able to do as human beings. We want to be able to switch it on and switch it off. The breath hold portion of that, the inhale, hold.
Before you, the one why I asked this question was when I talk about long breath holds, I instantly remember about David Blaine and his experience.
Oh yeah.
And he talked about it on the Joe Rogan, and this was what really. And he had a whole talk about it. This was really interesting. Sorry.
Yeah. So there's so many parts of this we could talk about, but the hold portion of breath work, so the hold could be 10 seconds or it could be 1 minute, right? A 10-second hold for you or I is not going to elicit any sort of stress response because we're fit and we're healthy. But for some people who are very stressed, chronically stressed, a 10-second hold will elicit stress. Now for you...
Sorry, okay.
Yeah. For you and I, we would have to hold our breath for longer to start feeling air hunger. And with air hunger comes stress. You start to feel stress, you feel that air hunger. How relaxed can you get at that moment? Are you able to relax into that stress? It's all about being able, because we can be in a very stressed environment, but be very relaxed. We can be in a stressful physiological and psychological state and control that and drum it down a bit and relax into it. And that's so important, that's so important because that's your energy, If you're stressed, you're using more energy. Yeah.
Exactly. One of the things I want to touch on, when you were talking about surfing and people who haven't had experiences, in the water out here and all that, is an interesting story is when I was a kid, I almost died from drowning.
Wow.
Yeah, and
we need to get you down there after, man, to face it. We need to get you back in the water on a surfboard.
And that's the thing. When I was younger, I had that experience. I almost drowned. I almost died. So I don't know. I was a kid.
Was that in a pool or at the beach?
In a pool, and I was upside down for quite a while. I was panicked, but I was a kid.
So did that when you were doing the helicopter stuff? Did that sort of
No. I think before that I already embraced that fear, and that was when that happened when I was I was young, bro, but I can't remember exactly, but so I was alone, jumped in the pool, whatever, and then my mom, it happened to be that my mom heard me screaming from I don't know how far, and I was in there for quite a while from what I was told, and she pulled me out by my legs, and and then I was alright, all good. So I had that fear. But as I got older, I think in my teenage years, we had swimming lessons, part of the school thing. And I was, this is one thing I want to share. I didn't turn up for those lessons, bro. Because I was ashamed, man. I was man, I don't know how to swim. All my friends know how to swim. I was ashamed, bro. I was embarrassed. I was man, I can't even swim. I'd always have to have my toes on the floor, bro. And I don't want to. I was the guy who was man, I was making fun of people and shit, that sort of thing. And I was man, if these guys know I can't swim, I look like an idiot, man. Fuck, I'm just not going to turn up. But I think what changed for me is like I made it a point like, look, I'm not gonna make a fool out of myself in front of all these people, so I'm gonna go there on my own. I'm gonna go there. I didn't get a coach as a swimming instructor, like, you know.
How old were you?
I was like a teenage kid, you know, and I was like, I'm gonna go there on my own. I'm gonna try some new things, and I tried it, bro. I got in the water slowly. First thing I did was I learned how to control my breath, because I knew if I fucked up, as long as I can hold my breath out, you just hold your breath and do that, and someone will come and save you, right? You can't go wrong there. So I did that, and then slowly I learned how to swim. I tried different things, and I did it, you know. And then, like, that's the thing, when you go to the pools, like the swimming instructors and all that are there, slowly I made friends with them. I said, how do you do this? How do you do that? You know, like, and then
that's the whole our ability to adapt as human beings, you know. Like, you didn't want to be embarrassed in front of other people, but you just found another way, you know. And
the embarrassment was real, bro. Like, because everybody knows how to swim, bro. And there's kids kids are the most brutal.
Oh, that little bastards.
They'll laugh at you, they'll make jokes and like all sorts, bro. And then once I was confident enough, I know, you know, what I was doing. And then next thing you know, I was like swimming, you know, 20, 40 laps. Like, it was part of my workout. After my workout, I go for a swim, you know, and I did all of that stuff. So that was like, you know, how I kind of embraced it. But it's hard. I understand not everybody can do the same thing that I did, but like, you know, I use that as like, you know, drowning and a thing to push me.
But I think like a lot of that stuff like that happens when you're a kid, you know, you hold on to, and like you're with that example, you know, you manage to find a way, right? But a lot of people don't, and they carry that stuff
for life.
Yeah, for life, right? And it's like, and then that starts having a ripple over effect into other parts of their life, you know, because you're strengthening brain structures that are associated with you know, fear or avoidance or whatever. And that's where we come back to that, like finding those things. Those are the great things, man. You got to find them. You know, the things that you have these irrational fears, or it may not even be irrational, maybe like something like what happened to you, you know, but find them and then go and explore them. Because that's the good shit, man. That's like where all the gold happens. It's like, you know, we say it all the time, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You got to find that uncomfortable.
It,
yeah. And
it's hard. It's real hard, man. But like, you have
don't
to
avoid it, eh? Don't avoid it.
You have to go towards it. Like, I mean, slowly, like you can't, you know, you don't want to push somebody to jump in the middle of the ocean and learn there, you know, like,
or you do.
Maybe
you do,
you know, but like we might want to, maybe something that you might want to take steps to get you ready for that. You know?
With this guy that I got in the water, you know, who has this fear of like the waves and it gets a bit bigger, man. We were out there and you could see, man, he was just, his eyes were like saucers, right? And he was coming at this from a very physiologically, psychologically stressed place. So like everything seemed like, as the waves were coming in, they seemed very scary, and the rocks, everything was just amplified, right? And he went like this. He was like, time out, and he time out, you know, and he went back in and he, you know, you could see like he was just in this battle, man, this
mental
battle.
Insane.
And I said to him, I was like, let's go, man. I was just go towards it. I was like, force yourself to go towards it, right? You're not going to do that if the environment is so dangerous that you're going to end up drowning, right? But, you know, we made sure that the environment was okay. It was just his like perception of everything. And, you know, he picked himself up and he walked towards it, but he was just in a state of like absolute fear and verging on that panic, right? And it was just like, but he went towards it and he did it, you know, he went out and we swam out, and afterwards, man, you could just see like,
it's life-changing.
Yeah.
Man.
And then he's going to come back out and we're going to do it again. And next time it won't be so bad. And then we're going to do it again and again and again. It's that repetitive exposure, right? In that controlled repetitive exposure.
Exactly, man. It's crazy. Like, you know, you know, you hear all these stories, and I hope that people who do hear it actually use it, you know, as a form of, you know, a motivation or inspiration or whatever, to go and do those
Get in the ice
man.
bath.
Get in the ice bath, man. Give it a try. It's not as bad as, you know, it's definitely
ice baths are becoming really trendy, like, right? We see them on social media and everyone's getting in the ice, and so we start like things that we have repetitive exposure to. We're saying, But then if you've never done one and you come, or even if you've done
exactly
it,
like what I said to you earlier before I was before I came here, I was like, during that drive, man, I was really contemplating, man, should I just tell Dave that there were no ice, I couldn't find any, bro, that was in my mind, bro. But I was like, nah, it's okay, we'll just do it, like, and I think, like, for me, man, for a lot of things that I do is, and I don't take this like, I don't just throw this around lightly, but like, one thing is, like, I would say is death. And why I say death is I'm not afraid of death.
I don't even think about it.
It's crazy. People don't think about it. That's the thing. And like, I talk to a lot of people. It's quite crazy, because sometimes when you're hanging on the side of a cliff or of a 150-meter building, and you ask someone, bro, are you afraid of death? Like, it's a bit scary, And some people, they avoid this question. But I've learned along, throughout my life, I've been through a lot of experience, and like working in the oil and gas industries, and I embraced it and I accepted it at a very early age in my life. Like, I am, I know that it's like it's happening. And if it does, you try your best not to make sure, to for it to happen.
Die,
But if it happens, it happens. You gotta embrace it. Like, it's this one thing that's certain in our life. That's everything else is it's a variable.
I'm the same as you. I don't find that it's not something I think about, but what I do think about is being unhealthy and living the last 20, 30 years of my life trapped in my body, which, I work as an intensive care paramedic, which I have done for the last 11 years. So I'm exposed to lifestyle disease, and I'm exposed to people that are trapped in their bodies, man, and that scares me. I don't ever want to be at a point where I can't function, like where I'm 50, 60 and I can't do what I want to do. That scares me, and that makes me create accountability around my own health, staying on point with my own health and my sleep and my nutrition and my exercising and my looking after my body, because it's an insidious process. And when being exposed to it again, being exposed to it in the ambulance, it really makes you stop and think, like, we're living longer, but we're living just trapped, man. It's like,
that's no way to live a life, man.
No, you got to look after yourself.
Exactly.
Like, you look after this is your vehicle, right? Like, your body is just a vehicle.
It is.
Like,
You
would
gotta
you
take care of that
do you
vessel,
want to
man.
like a shitty rusting heap of crap, or do you want to be riding a Ferrari?
Exactly. You have to take care of your body, and it's sad sometimes, because this was one of the I was just talking about this, about old age, and about people being healthy in old age just yesterday. And there's so many things that that come into play, but like, I think maybe it's getting better with the younger generation, like they're more aware, of these things, and to better take care of their bodies and all that. Because like, when I look at our older generation and all that, like, they were not really, okay.
I don't agree, man. I think almost the opposite, eh? I think, man, like, we have become so complacent, complacent. True, adaptation, like.
Yeah,
man, this is a long.
Angles, that one's it's a long. Well, we can dive deep into that. We can talk for hours, but for me, I think maybe because, like, coming from Asia, and
the Asian culture is totally different, right? Like, they view the elderly as the smartest, the wisest. They are the one in the villages. You go to the oldest person, they're the wisest. What in our culture, in European culture, it's like the old people we view them as decrepit, and they're in rest homes, and like, man, but why do we have that view? Because so many of them are like living the last 30 years of their life trapped, like, and they can't, they have diabetes, they have ischemic heart disease, they have cerebrovascular disease, all these lifestyle diseases where, we need to like, we're so, we've just lost our way. We've never lived in a time where we have, the technology is the best it can be. We have access to all this stuff, but we're confused, man. We don't know what to eat anymore. One guy's saying that eggs is a superfood. The other guy's saying it'll kill you. Milk, we don't know. And then we get so confused that we're just like, man, we can't eat anything, and it's like, but it is. And it's, I use one example, the shoes, you know, like I go down the beach and everyone's wearing shoes. If I see someone walking on the beach in shoes, I instantly just think, sorry, but I just think you're an idiot. Like, seriously, like, why are you wearing shoes on the beach? Like, and we put the kids in shoes, you know, and
maybe it's the parents, you know what I mean?
It is, because we've become accustomed to, like, there's too much red tape bullshit, you know, like everything's got to be safe nowadays, and we don't go outside if it's cold or if it's raining. We tell kids, you know, don't go outside, put your shoes on if you're going outside, get your shoes off, man, like get your feet, 100 muscles, ligaments and tendons in the foot and ankle. And when we put a sole on these kids, you know, those muscles are not connecting, they're not grabbing the ground, like, and so we create a weak arc in the foot. If you create a weak arc, then it's going to have a ripple-on effect through the entire body, knees, hips, lower back. You know, if you've got lower back pain and you come and see me, the first thing we do is like, man, you got to get your shoes off, you got to get it walking in bare feet. It's like a bridge, you know, a bridge has an arc underneath it to strengthen the structure. So the structure, the strength and structure of our entire body is in our foot, the arc in our foot. So if that's weak because we're wearing soles all the time, then we're going to have issues upstream, you know.
It does have some,
Complacent adaptation, you know, is what is happening, and it's we actually need to look back, you know, what were they doing before industrialization? And well, they were
in the Stone Ages.
They weren't talking as much for a start, you know, like we have the teachers a high burnout rate because they're talking, talk, small shitty breath, talk, small exhale, you know, and they're breathing in a way that creates a breathing pattern disorder when you're talking all the time. Talking is physically and psychologically stressful. Yeah,
it is.
If I give a a presentation or a workshop after 4 hours, I feel exhausted, man. Because you're just taking these small, shallow breaths, and we see this a lot with office workers who have to stare at a screen all day. Now, when you stare at a screen, your vision becomes like this, right? And that's a very primal thing. Back in the day, if something was coming towards you, you wouldn't need to see out that way. Your vision needs to be very focused. So staring at a screen puts you into a sympathetic fight or flight state. Just through your vision, your visual field is coming here, and it's telling your body, right, something's up. You know, it's the same like if you have a breathing pattern where you're breathing, 18 to 20 times a minute. It puts your nervous system into an upregulated state because your body recognizes that as something stressful is happening. So I just always think we need to go back, man. We need to go back and see what these people were doing before we, all this technology and
there's some, the people who talk about like traveling back to like West Africa and studying these people and how what they're doing, their diet, their lifestyle, and like hunting for food. Just like you don't see,
when you go hunting, you don't talk. And so these people were spending a lot of the day where they were just focused. They weren't talking. They were engaged. They were engaged in what they're doing. Nowadays, we come to a traffic light and we just sit there. We're disengaged. Then it goes green and we go. I came to a traffic light the other day and it was they weren't working, right, and they were blinking orange. So it was like at this big intersection, you got there. And then you had to try and navigate your way through, right? And there's traffic coming from all directions, but you're fully engaged. Your senses are fully engaged, and everyone gets through, right? It's like, look, in Asia, you go to India or somewhere like that, man. The intersections are like there's a cow and a chicken and like carts everywhere, and you're engaged and you're using your senses, and that comes back to the shoes. When you're using shoes. I walk around in bare feet, man, and I'm like, what am I looking for on the ground? I'm looking for chewing gum and fucking spit and things that I'm engaged, like this is just an example, but
man, traffic. You talk about like traffic in Asia is crazy. Like they don't have lights, man. In India, when I got to first time when I traveled to India and I got there and I looked at it, I was like, man, the traffic's insane, bro. Like you see this in the movies on the TV and shit, and then now you're there. And like when you cross the road, like there's no traffic, pedestrian crossings, man. Like,
and they all do it, man. They all get we don't need a lot of this red tape stuff that, we've brought in all these rules and regulations. If one person hurts themselves, we're making these blanket rules, That's why I got out of surf lifeguarding, because it just became crazy, Like someone hit their head in the boat. We've got to wear helmets now, Like you're not allowed to go faster than 5Ks down. What we've done is we've taken the individual's ability to make decisions, like make their own decisions around safety. And we've just blanketed it with these rules and regulations. And I'm not. We need rules and regulations, obviously, but it's gone too far.
Yeah, I think
we're trying to keep everyone safe. Man, rock fishing is dangerous, right? If you go rock fishing out here, you literally risk your life. And what have we tried to do? We've tried to safeguard it. We've put angel rings on the rocks, and brought in all these regulations, and we're trying to keep. Rock fishing is dangerous. Yes, you should wear a wetsuit and a life jacket. Yeah, so you can take that inherent danger on you when you do things like that. But what is happening is we're taking away people's ability to make decisions, and that is dangerous. It is a dangerous thing to do.
It's just when you start to regulate too many things, man, it just doesn't make sense.
Look at America, man. Like, geez, man, the amount of rules and regulations, and you can sue this. It's got out of control. It's crazy. I think in New Zealand we need to we've always, that Kiwi way of doing things is like free range kids, like running around bare feet or whatever, or like we just need to get back to the basic stuff and like.
But do you think the other one could be, like the city life doesn't enable you to do that as often, because being someone who's born and raised.
Yeah, some people don't have the luxury, right? Like, I get that they don't have the luxury because they are, stuck in a condo in a city and everything's concrete and it's like crazy outside. But man, kids are designed to they're not, the whole thing with like the hot and the cold, like, okay, it's cold, stay, let's put the heating on. It's like, that's like, man, you have your own thermoregulation. You have your own ability to regulate your temperature. But when we've like got air conditioning everywhere, we're just like we lose that ability, and so I mean, like to your question, we would all like to live in an open environment. We don't have that luxury, but in New Zealand we do. In New Zealand we do. Like we can go half an hour out of Auckland and be in a very rural place, but we're so busy now, like we're so busy that our time and focus is just taken up with like work and paying the bills and
and it's hard. You get, and that's one of the things, like you don't want to get stuck in that cycle, bro, because
that creates a lot of stress. That creates a lot of psychological and physiological stress, and like part of the key here is like getting back and connected, like whether that be like going for a walk or going camping. Man, if I go camping for 3-4 days, I'm fully charged. I come back and I'm like, I've got energy and focus. Part of my business now is like being on social media and like, as soon as the hardest part of this whole thing for me has been technology. Man, that stuff passed me like 10 years ago. I've been working on an ambulance, right? Like, where I just have to write on a bit of paper. And so when I started this, it was like I didn't have Instagram or that stuff, and it has been a huge like stumbling block for me. But then to the other side of it, of like getting really good at like doing this stuff and like but spending too much time. And for me, I am aware that has an effect on my sleep. It has an effect on my recovery. It has an effect on my ability to maintain focus. All these things that, if we talk about sport performance, is so important. Yeah, so it's about connecting back with just the basic stuff.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Like, I know what you mean. Trying to get that balance. Sometimes you get too engrossed. So you just and then you lose yourself in it. And you don't realize.
You're wondering why you're stressed, or why you're feeling, why all of a sudden you've never had anxiety before, and then you're anxious. Well, you're sitting all day staring at a screen. You're in a 90-degree seated position. You're compressing all this important tissue, these nerve pathways in your body that are innervating all these important structures. Your shoulders are hunched forward. You've got forward head tilt. Your thoracic outlet, all these important nerves that innervate your diaphragm and your breathing and your heart. We're so this is what is creating 1 in 5 people in New Zealand have anxiety, and we're just skirting around the edges of this stuff. We're not getting deep into the stuff. COVID, the perfect opportunity for these people that are responsible for health, and to come out and talk about breathing. COVID. How do we get COVID? It's a
health ministry. We got the man right here.
Someone should be
Dave
talking
Wood.
about this stuff, man. And
there's a plug right
yeah,
there.
and talking about,
It is. You 100%.
because there's a lot of stressed people out there, and what we tend to do with people that have chronic anxiety and stress is that, like, okay, go and meditate. You need to meditate. Well, how can you meditate if your breathing is all out of whack and you have no awareness of that? So again, that's the basic. That's the most basic form of being able to control your physiology is your breathing.
Man, you've covered a lot there, Dave, and I think that's really important. If anything, we can get away this whole breathing stuff. It is.
Yeah, I'll probably rabbit on too much.
No,
but I like
that. But that's what I want to talk about, because this is your specialty, and we want to learn something from you. And it's very important to me. It's important, to know and to understand. And well, there's a lot more things to it. And if anybody's more interested, you can contact Dave, get in touch with him, and he can teach you. And you can learn how to properly do all this. We've only covered we've just barely scratched it today,
we talked about traveling for a lot.
Yeah, we talked about heaps, and that's the whole point of the podcast, not to just focus on one thing. But anyway, this is the section that we've come to. Wise words from the wise man.
Oh, man,
Dave, if you have any,
I'd tell you any
wise words for people watching, listening, what would it be?
Just don't be a dickhead. Yeah, seriously, man. Just be a good person, be a good human being. I'm not going to part some wise sort of wisdom because,
bro, that is it's ironic, that is actually some wise words right there.
Yeah,
don't be a dickhead.
Yeah, I think if I was going to say anything, it's just get back and get connected with this wonderful environment that we have, whether it be out here or go camping or just, man, we need to de-stress. So embrace some of these simple things that we have, the breathing, the getting connected, getting your shoes off, just getting on the beach, go for a walk, go for a swim. Yeah, man, we need to get back in touch with this stuff.
Reconnect with nature and, just...
You hear this a lot, right? It can sound a bit like you're being...
Yeah, it's a bit cliche, but you think about it, it is true.
Yeah, man. You think about an office worker who maybe spends the entire week just not even connected at all.
But I think the other one is okay, put it this way. For me, I've the jobs that I've done have always been outside, outdoors, and very physical. Mentally draining, physically draining. And I've been hanging in a harness for a very long time, in my life, 10 years, and it does take a toll on your body, you know. But I found ways to get around it, That's why I train. That's why I do strength and conditioning. That's why and even when talking about when you're breathing, man, we talk about suspension trauma, as a rescuer myself, I have to understand a lot of things when I rescue someone, very, dangerous situations. When I'm rescuing someone, suspension trauma is one.
Suspension trauma, is that where you've been suspending for a long period of time and you get that compartment syndrome?
Correct. Yeah. So unconscious, there's so many things that I have to be aware of and deal with. But the one thing that's most important when you're rescuing somebody, because they panic, bro. Fortunately, I haven't had to. I haven't come to a situation where I had to rescue someone or they were close to that kind. I always make sure that we don't get to there, But I've seen.
But you'll have many circumstances in your life where you need to be calm.
Exactly.
Where you need to come at the stuff from a calm, rational place.
So being able to at that moment in time, trying to teach this person how to do that. You have to have a different, you have to be very calm, collect yourself.
Yeah.
You can't tell a person to be calm when you're panicking, man.
Oh, man.
And
pick up on that frequency, that vibe.
Exactly. And, just being able to, and just breathing, because if you don't breathe properly, in those sort of situations, chances are you'll pass out. Pass out.
Yeah, man. Rapid breathing.
Once this person passes out, there's a very limited time you need to rescue them.
Yeah.
Because if you get past that time, chances are they're not going to make it, So
do you still do that stuff?
Yeah. So there's just
that's why you're so calm in the ice, man. You've just had this exposure to this type of stuff.
I've experienced a lot of crazy shit, but high pressure situations, crazy, a lot of things stakes, you know, on the line. Like when, you know, sometimes like, especially when you work in the oil and gas industry, man, like when we're doing like big, insane jobs, like we're doing installations, modifications, whatever, like sometimes some of this equipment costs millions of dollars, bro. So now at the back of my mind, when I'm organizing a job, I'm doing something or whatever, like we cannot fuck this up, you know?
Yeah.
And you've got to be
That's
so
stressful,
calm, bro.
yeah.
If I screw
Bro,
it up, bro,
yeah.
I'm probably never gonna be stepping foot on an oil rig for the rest of my
Mm.
life. And worst part is, if you screw up, people might die. You might die. People might die. It's just gonna, you know. And I think talking about that, like the one time that really, I was like, okay, I did, you know, I was kind of sort of like prepared to, you know, go, was when we were on a rig and it was not you know, their fire alarm went off.
Mm.
And bro, I saw at that time people were panicking. You know what's funny? So we had like a 2-man bunk room. I shared with the doctor on the rig, bro. Fire alarm went off. This crazy fucking fella, he just got up and like he ran out, bro. He didn't even check on his mate or who's in the room. He slammed the door, boom, and I'm a heavy sleeper. Even if a bomb goes off, I won't wake up, bro. But yeah, that door was the only thing that woke me up. And when I woke up, I saw this motherfucker's just ran and he's gone off. He didn't even check on, you know, the people in the room and whatever. And he's like the bloody doctor, man.
Yeah.
And so
we got to take a step back. Eh?
Yeah, and I woke up and I got out and I like, you know, I opened my door, just like the fire alarm went off. I was like, oh, this is like a, you know, a practice or whatever, because we have that I think twice a week or 3 times a week, whatever. So I was like, maybe it might be a practice. I looked outside, everybody's like running and they're going nuts, bro. I'm like, what?
You would have been thinking,
man?
like, if it was serious, he would have woken me up.
You know?
But he's gone.
Yeah, and so I just like,
he must have really not cared about you.
Yeah, and I know, man. And like, so yeah, just chuck my my slippers on and walk down and go to the, you know, the assembly point. And like, yeah, so there was actually a fire. And like, you know, at that whole time, at the back of my mind, like when that whole thing happened, I was like, man, if this happens, like we're probably gonna go, you know. So I was already, you know, when I was walking, I was already prepared, you know.
Yeah.
That was at the back of my mind. Yeah, it might happen. So
that's how all bad things happen in those type of environments, when, you know, you don't just take a second to stand back and just take a breath.
Look at the
just take
picture.
Take that 1 second can mean the difference between, you know, acting in a concise, you know, way, or, you know, like that guy just, you know,
shot off,
panicking. Yeah,
what an asshole. Man, I actually talked to him about it. I said, bro, why didn't you wake me up?
He wouldn't have even been thinking about it.
Yeah, and I asked him, I said, why didn't you wake me up? And I just said, like, bro, next time if you gonna do that, man, check on the people around you, bro. Like,
if there's a fire and you like,
bro, exactly, man.
Yeah, so I run a course called Calm Under Pressure, and a lot of the practical experience that I have with running this course comes from working as an intensive care paramedic. And one of the things that we teach on this course is, you know, when things become gnarly, or, you know, there's a high stress situation, before you react, just stop for a second. And it can be just a second, right? Just to gather your thought process, not let your mind just start and come at it. Doing that, just taking that 1 second can mean the difference between, like what you're talking about, where this guy just got up and just boom. Yeah. Just take that 1 second and just that one breath, you know. And I can think of many examples where if people had have done that, you know, some
outcomes would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Anyway, Dave, another thing I want to ask is like, you know, you obviously have this whole thing going. Is there anything else like you have, you know, what are your future plans? Are you expanding, or are you working on anything else on the side, or?
Yeah, man. From the business side of things, it's like running a business is all new to me, so I'm learning as I go along. And it was like, you know, working with these fighters was like sort of baptism by fire. It was like, man, I've got to get my shit together, and like, so that's been a cool part of working with these guys. Has been a huge motivator to get the business side of things up and running properly. And I want to expand, you know, but I want to do it in an organic way. I want my business to like reflect my own personality, you know, like I'm not a really growing up out here, you know, if you put your head up, you were pushed back down. And that was a big thing for me starting the business, was like learning how to put myself out there. And I had a big roadblock with that at the start, you know, even with social media and putting myself out in social media. And so I want this process to be organic, and I want it to reflect my own personality, which I guess is not, I don't want to be a noter, I don't want to be flashy, I just want it to be organic. But at some point, like, you got to pull the pin, you got to pull the trigger, right, and you've got to expand. And that's where I'm sort of find myself at the moment. And it's just knowing which way to take the business. You know, like, I could easily sink a whole lot of money into this business right now, but when I started this to where I am now is a totally different pathway, you know. And so it's just like life or traveling, you know, you're trying to find your rhythm, right? And I always think that just take your time, like, don't be too rushed to like make these big decisions, you know. Like, when the time is right, then I'll pull the trigger and I'll buy, maybe get a factory or something and create my own space in town. You know, at the moment we have a factory, that space in town that's working really well, and I love being in there, and I love being out here. But at some point I want my own thing, you know.
Yeah,
and,
the location that you have in town as well, that, you know, you do your ice baths and everything there, and you conduct your workshops and all that there as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've got a space in Mount Albert.
I actually haven't been there. I should, you know, probably now that I've made the move to Auckland.
The first thing that you'll do when you get there is we'll get you in the ice bath. There's a lot colder. It's like the one of there is like 1 degree. So
I'm ready for it, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I've tried it, like, you know, like you said, man, it's not a barrier for me anymore.
Nah, it's awesome.
Yeah. It is. Anyway, Dave.
Hey, before we start, I got one thing to give you, bro.
Oh, yes.
So,
we got something.
as a gift for you, a Woody's Movement Workshop T-shirt.
Oh, that's the one. Look at that, champion, legend, man.
You got
Thank you
so
very
basically,
much,
you got to wear that everywhere.
Yeah, I'll wear that everywhere.
You're my walking advertisement.
I'll rep that. I think
don't take it off, man.
Size might be wrong, but I'm not as big as you think I am.
Medium, no.
Nah, but thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate the gift, man. Dave, also, I just want to say thank you so much. I know we have been trying to you know, get this podcast arranged and you know, done for quite some time. You're a really busy, man, and you know, just trying to get our schedules together to do this. I really appreciate, you know, your time, sharing this knowledge, your experiences and all that. And I hope that for the guys and girls who are watching today, you can, you know, learn something, benefit from it. And at the end of the day, that's, you know, that's the main thing. I want people to be able to learn something from all this stuff and gain something. Yeah. And yeah, man, thank you for your time. We're almost at, bro, 2 hours. We just hit 2 hours.
Well, before we go, man, I want to say something about you.
Yes. What is
Ali,
that?
you're a bloody legend. And I've learned a lot just by watching your podcast with some really interesting people that you've had on. And so, you know, I think that's what you're doing here is awesome, and spreading the good stuff.
Yeah, man. You know, just doing what I can, brother. Anyway, thank you very much, Dave. Guys, if you want to follow Dave, I'll put the links to his Instagram, his Facebook, his website. And yeah, if you want to, you know, contact him, reach out to him. There's nothing to lose and there's everything to gain.
As long as you're a good bugger.
Yeah, don't be a dickhead. All right, thank you very much, guys. See you on the next one.
Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you on the next one.